All right. So for Realist Tax, there are two ways that we can get there. Of course, on our Netris dashboard, we can access that through the Netris Tax application. That is going to be at the very top here. Netris Tax, that is the Realist Tax app. All right, it's a Netris application. Just do a single click, it'll open right up. And it'll bring you right to your dashboard. All right, so that is the first option for getting there. But we do operate out of Matrix quite frequently. So let me close out of this tab, go back to my Netris dashboard. And I'm going to open up Matrix. That's going to be the very first tile here, Netris Matrix. Give that a moment to load there. Now, typically, if we are trying to access another application within Matrix, we would go to our external links, right? But there is no external link that will take you to Realist Tax. That is because it has its own section up here at the very top, these links across the top. Hover over tax, and you'll see you have Realist Tax and Property Tax. So you can actually click on Realist Tax through here, and it'll take you right to Realist Tax. All right. There's a lot of integrations within Matrix that will display Realist Tax information. So that's why we give it its own section there so that we can access that more easily, no matter what page we're on in Matrix. So now we're on our Realist Tax page. This is going to be the dashboard here, and we'll explore the dashboard a little bit later here, but let's first navigate over to our settings. So look across the very top of the page here. We've got our dashboard and our search. Move your mouse all the way over to the right to the third icon from the right. That is going to be this little gear icon. All right, that's going to be your settings. So go ahead and click on that one. Right. Now, we're not going to make too many changes in our settings. I do want us to get familiar with the default settings that are in Realist Tax, but I want you to know where you can come back later to update any settings that you would like to customize. So your different sections are going to be listed over here on the left. We've got 4 sections to update. First thing is going to be your search. This will be your search options. So if you want to update how you navigate to a report, all right, any mailing label customizations, sale transactions, and how many search results, you'll be able to do that on this first page here. All right, again, we're just going to leave it as it is right now. We also have a section for reports. That's that second one there. For your reports, you can customize your preferences for how it displays. You also have a comparables report. We will take a look at how to generate a CMA in Realist Tax. You do have that capability here as well. And this is going to allow you to customize how those comparables are found. So these are going to be all the search criteria that you can use. All right, pretty extensive. So again, we're just going to leave the default setting. You keep going there. There is also a neighbors report, all right, and that's just going to be, again, once again, how we can obtain those neighbor properties, which will make more sense once we get to a property report. There's also a neighborhood profile report here, all right. Once again, we can customize how that information is displayed. Lots to be found in here. Finally, the assessor map. It's just an on-off switch. We're going to leave it on, and we will look at an example of what how that's going to display as well. All right, and then that's going to be in the report section. For the email signature, go ahead and get that one set up. All right, your email signature, this is going to be set up manually. So go ahead and enter some of your contact information here. As far as the customizations go, we're not going to have anything too advanced. You can update the font if you'd like to make it a little bit bigger. Right, you've got your bold settings, all of those. You can change the font color and the alignment of your text. But as far as any special characters, inserting images, anything like that, we do not have the tools in here for that. All right. Now, if your information changes, just keep in mind this is set up manually, just like our signature in Matrix as well. So if your contact information needs to be updated, you will need to remember to come back and make those updates. Okay, now if you are going to add that signature, go ahead and save your changes. The save is going to be down at the bottom right corner. Anytime you update anything, you're going to see this green banner displaying up here at the top. All right. That's our email signature. So if you generate any reports and you want to send anything out, that email signature will already be attached. Very last section here on the map. We're going to look at the map at the end of our class, but go ahead and turn on the parcel boundaries. This is the only setting that is in this section. All right, what this is going to do is when we look at the map, it's going to give us a more defined line so we can identify the parcel that's allotted for a property that we're looking at. All right, and that'll make more sense once we get to the map, but go ahead and make sure that's turned on. And once again, down at the bottom right corner, we're going to save our changes. All right, and look at that. We have our confirmation here. Okay. So from here, why don't we go up to our search up here at the top, right next to dashboard, click on search, and let's get familiar with the search page, because that's the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to look up a property. Now, as we go through this class, make sure that you're using the same examples that I'm using. That way you get the same results that I get. Okay, but let's get familiar with this page before we start those searches. Up here on the top left-hand side, there are 3 panes here. This very first one on the left. This is going to be where we can do our search. This will be your search criteria. So this is where we're going to be able to update and enter any search information that we're looking for. Up here at the very top left-hand side, you can see what county we're searching for. So you actually have to select the specific county that you want to do a search in. So it's always very important to keep an eye on this before you start a search. Make sure that the properties you're looking for are actually in this county. Otherwise, we won't get any results. All right. Now, if you want to change the county, that's going to be done under the Change County. This is actually a button that we can click. Let's go ahead and add some other counties here. Let's take a look at that first. So when you click on this, it's going to give you this big pop-up window. All right. All states are going to be displayed here. We actually have Louisiana and Texas that are available in here. If you're not aware, the Northwest Louisiana Association of Realtors is part of our NETRIS MLS. All right, so that's why we have their information here too. But if we're just looking in Texas, we can just click on that to filter through those options. All of the counties in the state will be displayed in alphabetical order. On the top right of this box here, you can see you can select up to 12 counties at a time. So let's add a couple more here. We've already got Dallas selected. Maybe we'll add, let's just add the surrounding counties here. So we'll add Collin County. That's going to be on that first column here. Collin, Texas. That is the county, not a city. All right, we've got Collin. Let's see, let's go ahead and add Denton as well. Denton's also going to be in this first column. And we're just checking the box. That's all we have to do is just click on that little box to add that blue check mark. And then let's go down to the bottom here around the T's. Let's add Tarrant County as well. Let's see, Tarrant County is going to be in the second column here, right under Sutton. Go ahead and check that box there. So you should have 4 counties selected. We have Dallas, Collin, Denton, and Tarrant. Now over here on the right, you've got this box here to help you keep things organized. This will display what we currently have selected. If you need to remove anything, if you added anything by mistake, you can just click on the little trash can icon, and that's going to remove that individual county for you. You can also clear everything by clicking on the clear selection at the bottom. One more thing I want to highlight before we go back to the search page is you can see the recording date on here. What is the recording date telling us? They all have different recording dates. Some from September, some from August. This is telling us that that is the last time that Realist Tax updated its data from the county appraisal district. All right. So since these are updated at different dates, if we have something that we come across that doesn't seem like it's the most up-to-date information, take a look at the recording date. All right. Maybe that's telling us we should go directly to the county appraisal district to get the most up-to-date information. All right. So this is not your only resource. You always have the county appraisal district that you can go to if you need to double check. Let's go ahead and apply those changes. That's again, bottom right corner, blue button. And we've got that confirmation banner here. Counties have been updated. Now, once that goes away, you can see if you select more than one county, it will say multiple counties selected. If you hover your mouse over that section, it'll give you a little pop-up on the bottom that'll display these cities and the recording date. So you don't have to go back into that page to see when it was last updated. All right, so that's how we can add a county. Now over here we have our search options. The default is going to open up to the quick search, and all of your criteria on your quick search will be down here at the bottom, going from top to bottom. All right. Now, the quick search is going to be more for your preset search options. This is already created by Realist. We cannot remove anything on here. These are just the categories that we have access to. In our second hour, we will look at My Search. That's where we're going to create our custom searches. So stay tuned for that. If you finish a search and you don't need this section anymore, look right next to the Change County, and you have these two arrows here pointing towards the left. That's going to allow you to minimize that section. So you can collapse it by clicking, and it's just going to expand your other windows here. All right. Now, the other windows we have is going to be our map up here at the top and the list of results down here at the bottom. Now, we haven't done a search, so it is blank right now. If you prefer to see one or the other, up here on the top right-hand side, it's already on the split view. But if I want to see the map only, I can click on Map. And if I want to see the list only, I can click on List. And it'll just make that customization here. Now, if I go back to my split view, another option that you have to customize that setting, if you hover your mouse in that middle section that separates the two panes from each other, you see how I have an arrow pointing up and down? That is going to tell me that I can actually click and drag the window up, or I can drag it down. Now, make sure with this one that you are doing a left click and that you're not releasing your mouse. Keep holding that mouse down. As you drag it up, it's going to go up with you. All right. Once you release your mouse, then it's going to stay exactly where you left off. All right. Now, we'll get into these sections a little bit later, but first, let's do a search for a property. How do we get that search pane back? Over here on the left, we've got this little magnifying glass icon. Go ahead and click on that, and it'll expand our search. Now, again, make sure you're following the same example that I'm providing. So we're going to go into the quick search. We're going to click on address, and we are going to look up the following address. It is 202 Brittany, Brittany. And notice how as I'm typing that address, it's giving me results that'll match what I'm looking for. And this is the address I'm looking for, 202 Brittany Drive, Coppell, Texas, 75019. Go ahead and click on that address. It should auto-populate in the search field. And then down here at the bottom, that dark blue button, go ahead and click on search. Now, since we are looking for a specific property, it is automatically going to open up that property report for us. All right. Now, if we had multiple results, then it would have shown us those results in the map and the list view. All right. So this is your property report. This is going to have everything that we're going to learn about these properties here. We see the addresses displayed across the top here, and then we've got several different sections in blue and that lighter blue color. These are all the different sections of the property report, and it does go a little bit further than that. So we will go through all of these sections. We're going to start here with our property details page. All right. Another thing that you have at the top, you can print and email these reports as well. You have a quick print and customize option if there's only specific sections you want to include, and that's available on both of these as well. And if you want to customize your view, we'll look at this a little bit later. You can also customize the data that's displayed on here. Now, first thing you'll see in the property details, there's MLS information in here. All right. So Realist Tax is already showing us that it's not just public record information. If there is MLS data available, since we have access to this through our MLS, we're going to be able to see MLS information here, right? That MLS sales price, that is not information that we would have access to if we were on the public record, right? Now, keep in mind, look at that. That date was from 2014. So any information on here, we're going to want to make sure if we are listing this property that we get the most up-to-date information, right? We're not just going to use the listing from 10 years ago to be the data for our property. All right. Just keep that in mind there, but let's keep on looking here. So we also have access to owner information. Now I will mention here, if any information here is actually incorrect, if you come across something and you know this is not up-to-date information, you can email the MLS department, all right? Just keep in mind, they might just need to refresh the data, check that date first. But if it's just a genuine error, we can reach out to the Realist Tax team and we can get that corrected as well, all right? So if you notice something like that, just let us know. But you can see here owner name, you can see tax billing address. So if this was not an owner occupied property, you can get the tax billing address for the owner as well. All right. Over here on the right, it'll also tell you owner occupied, yes or no. All right. And we will do some searches using that as our criteria a bit later as well. We also have location information here. All right. Again, this is coming from the County Appraisal District. We've got the location city, the school district. Now, as you can see here, there are fields for the elementary, middle school, and high school. That information is not displayed in here. So who's going to be our resource for obtaining the school information? The district. All right. So school districts typically have a search feature where you can look up an address and find out what the correct schools are. So, of course, always make sure that you check with that school district to get the right information. What else can we see in here? We've got the subdivision information, census tract, zoning information. All right, even kind of mentions flood zone details here. We'll look more at the flood map a bit later. We also have tax information. All right. If you use the fill from Realist tax option, if you're creating a new listing in Matrix, the tax ID is what is being used to populate that data. Now, if you are entering that tax ID into the parcel field in Matrix, make sure you're using this version here. All right. This is the same number, but Matrix seems to prefer that we remove all of those little dashes in the middle. All right. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to copy paste, copy the parcel ID if you're going to enter it into that field there. All right. Let's keep on looking here. We also have assessment and tax information, so you can see the assessed value. We can see over here, it's separated by the total, the land, and improved. All right. You can go 3 years back. Even the year over year assessed change, market value information, again, land and improved broken down there. We can also see tax information. And then down here at the bottom of this section, I want to point out the jurisdiction. All right. If you have ever put a listing in MLS and received a violation for the incorrect city, this is where we are obtaining that information. It's very important that when we have a listing in Matrix that we have the correct city. And how do we know who the correct city is? It is the city that they are paying their taxes to. That's where they get their emergency services from. So it's very important that they know what city this property will fall under. All right. Now, it may be difficult to explain if it's very close to another city, but you always have that, of course, Realist tax and the County Appraisal District will have that jurisdiction listed there. So you'll have that documentation to refer back to as to why you have to list that city for this property. All right. Let's keep on looking here. Now we get into our characteristics. All right. So this can tell you things like the land use, and it does have different categories for land use as well. You can see we have CoreLogic, state, and county as far as where this is coming from. Now, CoreLogic, that is the tech company that we have access to Realist with. All right. It supports the Realist tax system, and we do have data in here. Now, the state category, typically we don't have any data in there, and as you can see, that one is blank there. But we do know this is a single family residence. We also have the building type there, single family. If there is any MLS data, we will also be able to see the tax value and the MLS value on this section here. So you can see on the building square footage and total building square footage, we have tax and MLS. All right. So maybe this is telling us we may want to verify what the correct number should be since they're not matching there, right? So definitely going to want to verify, make sure that our listing, if we are going to list this property, has the most up-to-date information. You can even see over here the garage capacity. Looks like that was not available in the tax record, but it is available through MLS. All right, even the year built and condition also displayed here as well. Let's keep on looking here. Building permits. Now this section, there is no data in here. So if I don't need to see this, I can actually minimize this little box here, this card. I can click on the title building permits and it's going to collapse that for me. We also have a section for our features. All right, now this is going to just have any additional features that are worth noting, like we have the attached garage and the pool. You can even see the value listed for that as well. And now this is something a bit different, the cell score indicator. That's another feature within Realist Tax that we have access to. So what is this telling us here? We see the sell score, looks like it's on a scale from 0 to 1,000, and it has a rating of 944. What does that mean? That means that this is the likelihood of this property being listed for sale within the next 6 months. So 944, based off of this scale here, that is a very, very high sell score. All right, very close to 1,000 there. So that's saying this listing or this property has a very high chance of getting listed within the next 6 months. And how up to date is that sell score? We can see that on the top right hand corner, the value as of 9/15/2024. So just a few days ago, that was updated. All right, now we're going to take a look at how we can add this to our searches so we can use that as part of our criteria. So remember that sell score indicator. We'll look at that as well. We also have an estimated value. This is going to be your AVM, but it is actually a Realist AVM. They have their own AVM. Now, AVM, if you're not familiar with it, that's our automated valuation model. That is going to be using public record information to obtain the estimated value of the property. Now, if Texas is a non-disclosed state, is this going to be the most accurate estimation? Probably not, but this is a really great tool to have access to. You also have access to the RVM, or the Realtor Valuation Model, in the RPR application, Realtor's Property Resource. That one is going to both use public record information and both on-market and off-market listing data. So that's another option that you have as well if you want to kind of compare and see how it stands up to what we have in here. But in this section, we have the real AVM, so the actual estimated amount as an actual amount. You also have a range down here below. And over here on the right, you can see the confidence score. This is how confident they are that this is the actual estimated value for that property, how accurate it is. And that is last updated September 9th, so also pretty recent. It is the 18th, so just a couple weeks ago. Next up, we've got our rental trends. Now, rental trends, this is going to be kind of similar to that estimated value, but on the rental side, if this property was going to be listed as a rental, what is that estimated value? All right. What else do we have here? We get into some listing information. If there's any MLS history, all of those listings, we've got 1, 2, 3 MLS numbers in here. All right. And we have access to the history of those listings. All right. Those are from 2004, 2006, and 2014. So by 2024, I'm sure a lot has changed since then, but it's good to have access to that history. We've also got the last market sale and sales history up here as well, and you can see how far back that goes. Owner information, not too much to be found in here other than the owner name. So let's collapse that window. Go on to the next section here. And then we've got our mortgage history. Now with the mortgage history, you can go scroll through all the way to the back. This is not just going to be the mortgage information. It could also be if there was any refinancing as well. That's also going to be there. Finally, we have our foreclosure history, again, blank, but we will look at foreclosure properties a bit later. And then we have our property map. That's going to give us 2 maps here. We've got one that's going to outline the parcel for that property. And then we also have one that is going to be just a little bit more zoomed out, kind of a bird's eye view of that neighborhood. Now with this one, keep in mind, these are approximate dimensions, all right? But that is our property details. Okay, let's go on to our comparables now. Comparables is going to be where we'll be able to set up our CMA. Okay, now we did not customize the settings for the CMA search. So the default already provides us with some properties here, default settings in Realist. All right, our comparables are listed down here below. We also have a view of them on the map. If I wanted to generate a report, I can click on generate here. Once again, over here, you can do the print, email, and customize. But if you want to customize the search criteria on how we obtain those comparables, you can do that here as well. Now, we're not going to change anything. I just want you to see what it looks like. It's exactly how it's displayed on those settings. All right. If you want to update it, you can save those changes, or you can just do it once and keep your defaults as your saved settings there as well by clicking submit. Now, when we're ready to generate the report, go ahead and click on generate. All right, and now it's going to display in the form of our report. So go ahead and scroll down. This first section is going to be the search criteria that was used. But then we're going to get into the statistics over here, the high, low, median, and average. Your subject property is always going to be that first one there. Your comparables will follow. And then we can actually compare the actual properties. You've got your addresses, MLS history. Most recent listings are going to be displayed in there with their MLS sale information. And then you've got just the general breakdown of the details of the property there. All right, pretty extensive information there. And then if you want to, you can print, do a quick print, and you can get a copy of that CMA. All right, now if I were to select that, this is how it's going to display. It's exactly the same information that we had visibility of in that Realist tax view, all right, just in the form of a PDF. So you can share that if you need to. All right, let me go back up here. That was the comparables here. All right, pretty easy to get that CMA generated. It kind of does everything for us once we update that search criteria. Let's go on to our market trends. Now your market trends, this is going to be an overview of the market as it relates to the zip code where this property is located. So this is going to be 75019 for that market. All right. When was this last updated? We can see on the far right-hand side, August 2024. That is when this was last updated. All right. If you want to go further back, you can actually go up to a year into the past by clicking that calendar icon, select the month you'd like to view. I'm just going to keep it on August 2024. And it'll update with the information here. And then you've got different types of data here, your total closed sales. All right, you can see the average for the last 5 years as well. Average sales price listed here. We've got the total active listings, days on market, monthly average days on market there. All right, average price per square foot, sale price to list price ratio. Looks like about 97% for this area. And you've got some charts down here, the average sales price, and you have the data that you can look at here, but look on the top right of each of these. You can switch between MLS and tax data and kind of see the difference between the two with average sales price, average sale to original list price ratio. Again, it was 97%, so we're not going to see a huge difference in this one. But we also have average price per square foot, number of sales, and change in sales activity. And then down here you can see it's got the zip code that we're looking at, but it's also going to compare it with surrounding cities and with Dallas as well. Right? And that is our market trend. So just really good to get access to that data. Remember, you have access to this type of data in other applications as well, but we want to make sure you know all of the resources that are available. This is all just by looking up one address. Let's go to our neighbors. Neighbors is going to do a search for properties that are immediately surrounding our subject properties. So 202 Brittany Drive, it's looking at all of the addresses that are just immediately in those surroundings there. You'll see the numbers listed on here. Those numbers are going to reflect down here on this bottom section. And it's going to just show us the breakdown of all the details of these properties as well. We've got the addresses here first, so we can kind of keep that data organized. Any MLS history, of course, we do have MLS. It'll show you tax or MLS and compare the data with each one. All right, we can scroll through there. And then if you want to see the other properties here, you've got a little arrow on the right. It'll allow you to go through the other properties as well. All right, I think there were about 20 or so on here. So you can really get a lot of information there and even use this information if you'd like to maybe look for some different comparables even. So that's our neighbors information, just the immediate neighbors in that area. We also have a neighborhood profile. Neighborhood profile is going to give you a lot of information here, stats about the people, ages, statuses, home information. First section we have is going to be for population. You've got a summary here with the estimated population, the percentage of growth since 2010. All right, population density, so number of people per mile. We have the median age. Over here on the right, household information, number of households, the household size, looks like about 3 people. And also households with children. How many of those are households with children? We have that data here as well. We have a chart that will give us more, kind of a more detailed breakdown of the age ranges in this area. So you can kind of see, looks like as far as kids go, it's going to be 10 to 14 are going to be the highest category. And then majority on the adult range are going to be between, looks like 40 and 54 in that category. That's the highest one up here. A bit further down from there, we have gender breakdown, female to male ratio there. Marital status, all right, what percentage of the population are married, single, divorced, widowed, or separated? All right, and a lot of this information is coming from the US Census Bureau as well. And then we have housing information after population. What's housing information going to show us? That's got median home sales price, median year built. So a lot of them looks like 1994, around that time frame. I think this property was 96 on there. We can also see annual residual turnover. So how many residents are moving out of that city? All right. Occupancy. What percentage of properties are owner occupied versus renter occupied? We also have a percentage of vacant properties as well. All right. Fair market rents information also here as well. All right. So kind of gives us an idea of what a reasonable rental price would be depending on the number of bedrooms. All right. In that area. Next up, we have quality of life. This is going to be kind of more about the workforce type of information here. We can see workers by industry, all of the industries that are represented kind of listed there. We also have the workforce little chart here, what percentage is blue collar versus white collar. All right, so just giving us an idea of what everyone is doing in the neighborhood. We also have household income. All right, lots of information to be found in here, along with the average for the household income and average per capita income. Both are listed down here under that chart. And we've got our commute method. Very important information over here if you've got someone that's not from this area. Maybe they're used to being able to walk everywhere. Maybe they're from a city where everything is within walking distance. Well, we know in DFW, a lot of us are driving everywhere, and that is going to kind of confirm that for us. Almost 80%. How are they getting to work? They're driving. We also have a percentage that works from home. All right. And then you've got your public transportation, very small for that area. And then self, I would say this is probably going to be anyone who's walking or biking, kind of using their own transportation that's not a motor vehicle. So we can see all of that in here for that area. We also have weather information here. Now, keep in mind with these weather details, these are going to be the averages that were recorded for those months. So we've got the high and low for January. Looks like the high was 54, low was around 33. And then July, high and low, the high was 94.3. Now we know as residents of this area that while it might say 94.3, it doesn't feel like 94.3. So we might want to be a bit transparent if someone's coming from a place with a cooler climate, what to expect in the summertime here, right? We can also see the annual precipitation. All right, that's in inches of rain. And then that is going to bring us down to the education section. All right, not too much in this section over here. Highest level attained, we do have that data. All right. And if you're ever curious, where is this information coming from? Realist will typically provide these little kind of footnotes here letting us know where did they obtain that here. So US Census Bureau, socioeconomic status. All right. This is going to be based off of that zip code. We also have additional school information here. Okay, school information is going to show us names of those schools in each category: elementary, middle, high school, private. Now, these are not all of the schools in that area. All right, looks like it's going by whatever is within about a 1 mile radius here. But of course, remember, we're going to check with the district to make sure we have the right schools listed for that property. But you can see what grades are covered in each school, the number of students for these schools, and the number of students per teacher. All right, good information to have access to. There's also some rating information coming from great schools and also from the community as well. All right, now are we making recommendations? No, but this is just information, just for informational purposes. but we're not making recommendations or decisions for anyone on which schools they should be attending. Finally, after schools, we have local businesses. All right. You might have noticed we can actually customize that option. It was in the settings section. You can customize how this information is displayed. But this is just going to look for local businesses. I believe the default right now is for it to be within a 1 mile radius. So anything 1 mile or closer is going to be listed in here. We've got any kind of dining establishments listed here. We have the address, phone number, and also a description, so you know what type of location it is. Just keep in mind, this is public record information, so this is going to be the tax name for that business, not the actual name of what's on the building there. We also have shopping information here as well. So what kind of shopping is there? Any kind of grocery stores, variety stores, coffee shops, things like that, all listed in the neighborhood profile. So the neighborhood profile has a lot of information to be found in here as well. Let's take a look at our assessor map next. All right, the assessor map, that is going to be this one right here. We can click on this to download the map. Now, if you are not able to download this map, check your settings in your browser. You might have a pop-up blocker. All right, that's going to be your browser settings. It's not a setting in Realist Tax, but you do have access to the assessor map. All right, if you have the access to open it up, should look just like this. That's all there is on here. It's just the assessor map if you'd like to download and take a look at that. Next up, we have our flood map. All right, so we've got the flood map here now. This is going to tell us whether this property is in a flood zone, and it's actually going to show us in pretty obvious big white letters here. Is it in or is it out? It is out of a flood zone. Now, if you have someone that's in a flood zone, we have more detailed information here. All right, so if you scroll down here, you can see the actual flood map giving us that satellite view with kind of that heat map look to it. Over here on the left is going to be your legend. So if you have someone that is in a flood zone, you're going to want to be able to interpret what this means. You've got a little gray icon here, the letter I. If you click on this here, it'll tell you what these X500 A zone, B zone, and D zone things actually mean and where that data is obtained. So you can see kind of a more detailed explanation of that in this section here. So that way you'll be able to kind of explain what all we're looking at here. Now, I did skip this up here at the top. Let's look at this real quick. When was this last updated? Report was generated at midnight. All right, September 18th, that's today. So this is typically daily at midnight. They update this just in case there's anything more or any changes since the last report here. If we scroll down just a little bit more, you'll see a little more detail on this section here. All right, just get more familiar with the information. Now, they do have a premium flood map. This already provided us with a lot of information here. But if you're interested in that premium flood map, you can actually get a sample of that here. Now, there are several different reports within Realist that they offer as an additional add-on. You can purchase them through Realist, but that is not included with your MLS. We don't have any involvement in this. So we're going to go through everything we have access to within your MLS that you don't have to buy an additional subscription to or just a one-time purchase. But it's up to you if you'd like to use that. Let me go ahead and download that sample report just so we can see what it looks like. Looks like it's about 6 pages of information here. This is kind of similar to what we saw on the standard flood map already on that first page there. But then you have a little bit more detailed information here. So if you do have someone that is in a flood zone, they can get that information here. But I would say that use your judgment if you're going to use that. You get basically 1, 2 additional pages, and then you have all of these glossaries just to kind of define everything that's displayed on there. All right, so use your discretion on that. That's completely your choice if you'd like to download it. Well, let's go on next here. Oh, and I did mention, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but this information, where is it coming from? It's coming from FEMA. I believe that would be a pretty trusted source, right? If they're in a flood zone. Let's go on to our building sketch. Now, the building sketch here, we may or may not have one depending on the property, when that was obtained. CoreLogic, the system that powers Realist, they're no longer requiring these building sketches. So if this was obtained, it's because it was done prior to 2015, all right? But we can see the breakdown of both floors on here. What do we have next here? Hazards and risks. Now, this is another report that you would have to purchase. All right, use your discretion on that one if you'd like to use it. You can download a sample report if you would like. Again, make sure you have your pop-up settings there. All right, it's just another report that you can get through Realist Tax. Next up, there is the premium neighborhood reports as well. Again, all going to be purchased through Realist Tax, not related to your MLS subscription here. All right, so these are all of the different sections of our property report. We went through all of those sections here. Again, you can print, you can make a customized print or a customized email, depending on how you would like to share that information there. Now, if you're working on a property and you have to step away, maybe you have a meeting you need to get to, but you want to come back and look at this property later, we can save this as a favorite and we can come back and we can continue working through this, right? So how do we do that? Up here at the top, you've got this little gold star icon. You can click on this, make sure it's filled in. You'll always get that banner to confirm any changes that you've made. Once it's filled in, it is saved as a favorite on your page there. Now, how do we get back to that property? You can either go up here to the top right-hand corner, click on that star, and you've got your property right there. You can come back into the report, or another option, you can go all the way up here to the left, click on your dashboard. All right, your dashboard is going to display here. Now, the dashboard, let's take a look at that for a minute. So the dashboard is going to have different types of data displaying on here. All right, if I scroll down all the way to the bottom, let's find that saved property first. We've got these different sections here, saved searches, last viewed properties, and there is a widget for your saved properties, and there is the property that we just saved. All right. That's the property we saved. Now, what else can we find here? Let's scroll back up to the top and explore this a little bit here. So we've got a greeting here on our dashboard. We can also search for an address here. Now, keep in mind, you have to make sure you have the right county selected. That's going to apply no matter what search, where you're initiating that search. All right. But then we have our quick stats down here. So quick stats, 90-day trends on total closed sales information, pending sales, active listings. Now, how do we know what areas these are in? Look down here below. We've got all 4 counties that we selected here. All right. So whatever we currently have selected, that is the data that's going to display on your dashboard. So with Collin, Dallas, Denton, and Tarrant, these are going to be the total sales, pending sales, sales to list price, days on market. All of that is going to be based off of the 4 counties we have selected. If you click select county up here on the top right, you can change those options. If you just want to look at one county, you can do that as well. Over here on the right, you've got your market temperature. Pretty neutral in the middle here there, but it will tell us whether it's more of a buyer's market or a seller's market. You've also got access here to the CoreLogic Twitter feed. So any updates about CoreLogic systems, you can actually get direct access to those most recent posts on here. A little further down, we've got some different charts here, MLS, average sales price information. Once again, down here at the bottom, this is going to be for those 4 counties that we selected at the beginning of class. We can also see the change in MLS sales activity. And you can see this is going as far back as November 2023. All right, all the way to July. Finally, down here, once again, we have our different widgets. We saw these saved properties. That's where we saved our property that we just looked through. You've also got property market insights. All right. You can go through some different articles that are available here, as well as industry news. And with the industry news, you can actually customize what news channel you're getting the information from. Now, how do we make that customization? On the top right, these 3 dots here, these are going to be your menu options. And you can choose, do you want to get Inman News, Housing Wire, Riz Media, Real Deal, Real Estate News? Remember, you get that complimentary subscription now, and Realty Time. So you can actually switch, select one, and then you've got access to their more recent articles. Finally, down here at the bottom, any saved searches that we create, and we will create saved searches in our second hour, those are going to be accessed through here as well. And then any properties that you viewed, whether you initiated that search through Realist Tax, or if you clicked on that tax ID from a matrix listing, all of those listings are going to display here. So if you forgot to save a property and you need to go back, you can actually go to the last viewed property, click on that, it'll bring you right back, right there. All right, so that's that tour of our dashboard here. At the end of class, if we have some time, we'll take a look to see any saved searches and other properties that we viewed. But let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break. And when we get back, we're going to get started on those custom searches. All right, let's make our way back and get started with the rest of our class here. Just a quick recap. We looked at the different ways that we can access Realist Tax through our Netris dashboard and through Matrix. We also took a look at the little settings, that gear icon here where we can adjust our settings. Remember, once you're more familiar with this application, take a look at those settings and see how you can adjust any of the criteria on how your reports are generated. And we took a look at how to customize, or not customize, but how to manage the different views of our search page. All right, we're on the search page here. And if you'll notice, I clicked on search and it has the address that we looked up still in there. And it displays it down here in that list and on the map here. So that's one of the nice things about Realist Tax is if you navigate away and you come back, it's going to have the last search that you did in there. All right. Now, since we're going to get started with our custom searches, I just want to make this recommendation. Make sure if you're going to start a new search that you are going to hit clear all on the search at the bottom here. Click on clear all. It's going to make sure any fields that are here are cleared out. That way, if we do another search, we're not accidentally overriding that search with information we forgot to remove. All right. So just a quick clear all, and let's go ahead and switch over from quick search to my search. All right. Once you're there, it's going to be highlighted in blue. That's how we know we're on my search. And there's way more criteria that's going to display here for us. Now, this is where we're going to create our own custom searches. But not only that, Realist also has their own searches that they have built into this as well. So we will take a look at those a little bit later, but how do we access any of those searches? It's through this saved searches section up here at the top. So you've got this drop-down menu, click on that, and your very first option here is going to be to create a new search. Let's go ahead and create a new search. Click on that. Now this window should look pretty familiar here. This is kind of like when we added our counties to our other search page here, except this is going to be first search criteria for a custom search. So first thing I want to do here, let's say that the search we're going to be doing right now is we want to look for properties that are renter occupied. So maybe we're looking for some buyers that might be interested in purchasing a new home. So let's go ahead and first give the search a name. Click on this little pencil icon here, and it'll allow you to text in this section here. And what I'm going to do is call it renters search, but you can customize it whatever name you need, whatever makes more sense to you. So I'm just going to do renters search, and let's put today's date so we can keep things a little organized, make sure we got the right one, 9/18, and then just click out of there. It's going to save that name for us. Next thing here, what type of search fields do we want to add to this search? So we've got our categories over here at the bottom. All right. The default is going to open up to all categories. And again, those are always going to display in alphabetical order. On the top right, we can see how many we can select. It says 0 out of 30 selected. We're not going to do 30 fields for this search. We don't need that much. But let's go ahead and go through the different categories here, starting with owner information. That's where we're going to get the first piece here. So under owner information, what do we want here? We want to know, is it owner occupied? Yes or no? Click on owner occupied, check that little box there. Make sure you have that little blue check mark. It should also display over here on the right, selected attributes, owner occupied. That's under owner information, the very first category under all categories. All right. Again, make sure you're using that questions chat if you need me to repeat something, if you are following along. Well, I'm going to move on to the next one here, location information. For this one, we want to isolate a specific area. So let's go ahead and add the zip code to this category here. But you can also add an address. You can add a city. You can add a street name, but I'm going to use the zip code. Check that box there. All right, from location information, we're going to move on to characteristics. Now, characteristics with this one, we want to know specific property types. So let's say we're going to reach out to renters that are renting specific kinds of properties so that we can kind of try to find someone who's looking to purchase maybe a single family residence, right? Let's take a look here. We've got the land use. Remember when we looked at that property report, we had CoreLogic and we had the state, but the state didn't have any data in there. So let's use that CoreLogic information. Check that box there. And this is going to give us all of the different categories that can be used for the land use category there. All right. Now you do have other sections down here as well, listing information, assessment and tax, sales information, foreclosure, mortgage, but this is all we're going to be using for this search here, owner occupied zip code and land use CoreLogic. Down here at the bottom, go ahead and click save. That's going to save this to our save searches page. We have that confirmation. And then we'll click apply. What that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and select this as the next search that we're going to do. So we don't have to go through the drop down and make the selection. It is already selected. How do we know that? It's right here, renter search 9.18. Right under there, right under that drop down, it's going to display what search we're using. Now let's scroll down here. We'll worry about the premium map layers when we get to the map features later on, but let's look at the criteria we added for our search. We have owner occupied here. So first thing we're going to do, click on this button, select from list. That's going to bring this into a drop-down menu. Click on that. And if it's owner occupied, if we're looking for renters, are we going to select a yes or no? This one's going to be a no. All right. If we are renting, then the owner is not occupying that property. Next up, the zip code. For this one, we'll stick to the same zip code we looked at before. Let's do 75019. If you're doing a search and you're looking in multiple zip codes or multiple cities, anytime you see a plus sign here, that means you can add another. All right. We're just going to do one zip code here. I don't want to overload us with too many results. Next up, we're going to use the land use option. Go ahead and click select from list. And we have another pop-up here. Now from this list on the top right, you can see you can add up to 90 in this category here. Now I'm going to keep this less than 90 because if we get too many results, then Realist is going to just start working a little slowly, and we want to make sure that we're able to capture every example we want to do today. But if we're looking for renter occupied properties, what kind of properties might we be looking for? Let's go down this list here. Maybe a condominium, right? Or maybe a duplex. Let's go ahead and select duplex on this one for this example. But anything else, if we have like apartments or anything else that might fit that category for potential renters that might want to purchase a home, we can add any categories we have here. All right, it's not just going to be for residential. This can also be for commercial listings as well, or commercial properties, I guess. So all of these are going to be any type of land use, even if it's a ranch or anything like that. All of those are going to be on here. All right, so even at single family residence, SFR is on there. I'm going to stick with just duplex. Let's see if that gives us results. If not, we can make adjustments here. But let's go ahead and click apply on the bottom right-hand corner. All right. Now, if I scroll down here, I see duplex is on that list there. So let's just start there and see where that takes us. We're going to click search and take a look at those results. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm going to move my, let's see, I've got my list view over here. I've got the gallery display, but maybe I want to see the list. There we go. It looks like just with that data, we have 135 properties that came up on this. All right, lots of information there. Now, if we want to use this information to reach out to those renters and let them know, hey, I am available to help you with your search for a new home, please contact me, we can actually produce mailing labels once we do that search. So we've got all of these properties selected. Maybe we want to start with a little bit less. Maybe we'll just do the first 5. Just for the example here, I'm just going to check these boxes. That's how we know which ones we want to include on that export. Now down here at the bottom, you've got your options here. You can export, you can print, you can email, and right here at the bottom are the labels. Hopefully everyone can see that. It should be at the bottom of your page. Labels, go ahead and click on labels. Now what's going to happen is it's going to open up this pop-up where we can make a few customizations on here. First thing is going to be to select your preference, your preferred layout here. That's going to depend on the type of labels that you have that you're going to print on. Let's go with the second option, Avery 5161. Next one we have here, choose the letter case. So how do you want to display the letters on that label? Do we want to use a mixed case of uppercase and lowercase, or do we want all capital letters? All right. Sometimes people feel capitals is a little aggressive, so maybe we'll stick with the mixed case. And then choose the address type. Do we want to use the tax billing address, or do we want to use the property address? Well, if we're reaching out to someone who's renting that property, we want the renter's property address. All right. The tax billing address, that is going to go to the owner of that property that is not being occupied by them. So they're probably not going to be the ones we need to talk to. We want those renters. Next up, additional customizations. How do we want the name displayed on the label? Do we want to show the current owner, or do we want to create a custom label? Check the box to create a custom label. And then you can write whatever you would like to write in here. So let's just say, hello, future homeowner, right? What else do we have here? Do we want to include foreign addresses? Probably not. And would we like to eliminate duplicate labels? Yeah, I don't want to duplicate my efforts. Let's just eliminate any duplicates. All right, now very important, this next section here at the bottom, there is a limit to how many exports you can use per month from Realist Tax. Now your exports, that is not just going to be labels. That's also going to be if you decide to export this data in the form of a spreadsheet. All of the properties you have on there are also going to count towards your total that you're allowed every month. So you can see over here on the right-hand corner, how many are allowed each month? You have 7,500. All right. It does not roll over. It's just going to reset every month. So if you don't use all 7,500, you don't get to keep those. It's just going to do that reset there. Now, if you reach that maximum of 7,500, you also get 2,000 mailing labels that you can print through the RPR or Realtor Property Resource application as well. So you do have two options there. So you're not limited just to Realist or just to RPR. You can actually use both. It's also going to tell you how many exports you have exported so far this month. So you can kind of keep track of how many you have remaining and then how many records you have in this export. So I am going to export this, but if you prefer to keep that, that total without the example, go ahead and just hit cancel instead of create. But one last thing before I do the export, if we had left all 135 exports checked, or properties checked, I should say, you can either select all of them, or you can just do a range. All right. So maybe you could do 1 through 5, or just the first 25, print those first, see how that goes. All right. So it just depends on at what stage you make those customizations, but you have both options there. All right. So I'm just going to do these 5 and I'm going to click create. Again, you don't have to do that if you want to save those for actual exports that you're going to be doing later. But I do want to show you how that's going to display. It'll download as a Word document. And there it is. All right, hello future homeowner, and we've got the address there in that mixed case, and it's going to have it already formatted in that Avery 5161 format that we selected. All right, and now that those 5, that's going to take away from my 7,500 for the month. All right, so just make sure that you're aware of what your amount is so far in case you're going to be doing a larger amount of outreach. But that is our first option there for producing mailing labels. All right, so that was for our renters search. Now you should now have this under your saved searches. If you click on save searches at the top, should be the first one on the list there, renter search 9.18. All right, now let's do another search. Let's say, all right, so we are not looking to represent the buyer, but maybe we're looking to get some listings that we could potentially sell, right? So how would we do that? Kind of similar. Let's create a new custom search. Let's go to our save searches here. Click on create new search. And this time we're going to give this one a different name. This one, we are reaching out to potential sellers. We want to sell their property. So let's call this one the sellers search. I'll put 918 on there again so I can keep track. All right, I have my seller search here. Now, what criteria am I going to add to that search page? Let's go down to owner information. Let's start there. So what we did last time is we had owner occupied. We selected no on that one. This one is going to be a yes. So let's keep owner occupied on there. We also have our location information that we need to get. Click on that one. And for this one, let's go ahead and add the zip code again. Zip code's on that first column. And then a few spaces up, let's say we want to target a specific subdivision that we've had our eye on. Let's click on the subdivision as well. All right, so far we've got owner occupied, zip code, and subdivision. Let's go on to characteristics. And again, I'm going to select that land use core logic on that second column here. All right, so we're going to be able to decide what type of listings am I wanting to sell. That's what we're going to specify when we use that land use option. So we've got all of our selected categories here. Let's go ahead and save that saved search. All right, we have that confirmation up here, and then click apply on the bottom right-hand corner. So now we have our seller search. Let's just make sure to clear all so we can start fresh there. All right, and now we're going to enter our data. So let's scroll down to owner occupied, click on that drop down. This time we are selecting yes. We want it to be owner occupied. Next up, our zip code. So this time, let's go somewhere else. Let's go over to the Grapevine area. Let's look up the following zip code, 76051. Again, if we have multiple zip codes, we can just click on that plus sign. Next up, our subdivision. Now, if you've done a subdivision search in Matrix, you know you have to use those asterisks before and after. We actually don't have to do that in Realist Tax. So just click on this. This is going to be our little search bar here. And we're going to look up Glade Crossing, Glade space crossing. And go ahead and click search, that little magnifying glass there, and see what our results are. All right. So the subdivision is going to bring up anything that comes up with that subdivision here. So you can see there are some residential options here, but we also have a Baptist church. There's a shopping center. So just make sure you're making the right selections based off who you're trying to reach out to here. We're going to select anything that could be a residential option. So we've got the Glade Crossing 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and I'll add these others as well, phase 1 and phase 2. All right, we won't select the shopping center or the church, just the residential is what we're focusing on here. Now that we've made our selections, bottom right-hand corner, click apply. All right, and we have our subdivisions, all of those added, all phases of the Glade Crossing subdivision. Up next, land use. Click on the land use. And what are we looking to sell here? Let's say we're looking for single family residence. Again, this is going to be in alphabetical order, just like all the others. So let's scroll down all the way down to where the S's begin. Here we go. And for single family residence, it's not going to be listed in words. It's actually going to be the abbreviation SFR, between service station and shopping center. Make sure you select the right one there. And that's the only one we're going to be selecting here because we're looking to list a single family residence. All right, so as long as we've all got that, go ahead and click apply. And then we've got SFR down here at the bottom. And look what we have down at the bottom here as well. Under the search option, we can see view results, 516 matches. So it does tell us, based off of the criteria that we enter, how many properties match the current criteria. So let's go ahead and click search. and see those results. Now, 516 matches, that is a lot to go through. All right. And that's a pretty big number. If you're going to be reaching out to everyone, that's a pretty big number on your on that 7,500 total. All right. So how can we organize these a little bit better? Well, let's look at what we have right now. So we've got just the address, property information. If there's photos, we can see that as well. There is a column in here. If you'll notice these indicators, these are going to be for MLS listings. So these are sold properties, so not on the market currently, but if we were to find any that have that green indicator for an active listing, we want to make sure that we're not reaching out to anyone that has an existing listing in MLS, right? So that might be something we want to use to organize this too. What's another thing that we can look for? Remember when we looked at that property at the beginning of class, and under the property details, there was a section for the sell score? All right, remember that was the likelihood of the property selling or being listed for sale within the next 6 months. Maybe that's a category that'll help us to organize our listings here, or properties here, excuse me. Let's go up here to customize table. This is going to allow us to add or remove columns to our page. So click on customize table and then select show/hide columns. And this is going to bring us all of the columns that we can add, along with all the existing ones on here. So you can see everything that's already checked. On the right-hand side, you can go through this list. If there's anything on here that you actually don't need, you can remove that too. All right, just click on the little X to remove those details. You can select up to 30 columns to display on that list view at a time. All right, but for this one, we're specifically looking for that sell score. So let's go over to our categories on the left, down to sales information. All right, and what do we have in here? We have the recording date and we have our sell score. So let's go ahead and check that box. All right, once that's been selected, go back over here to selected attributes. These are the options we already selected. Scroll down to the very, very bottom. And that is our sales score. All right. So the way that these are formatted, those columns, when they display, they go from left to right. Since this goes from top to bottom, the very top is going to be the far left column. So this is going to be all the way at the end. If I want this to be in the first initial sets of columns, what I'm going to do, just like any of our widgets in Matrix, I'm going to do a left click and I'm going to hold my mouse down and drag this all the way up to the top. All right. Just hold it up here while it scrolls up. Don't let go. And once you make your way to the top, you can decide where exactly you'd like that to be. Maybe you'll have it right under the MLS listing indicator. All right, that way we can keep those organized, make sure we don't include any active listings on our results. Now that we have that on there, let's go ahead and click apply down at the bottom. And it's going to update. All right, and we've got our column here. Now we have the sell score. Another option you have, if you prefer kind of doing a drag and drop, kind of how we do it in Matrix, if you hover over any of the titles of these columns here, you can actually do a left click, hold it, and you can drag it over to the right or over to the left. All right, you see how I'm doing that there? So those are both of your options for doing that there. All right. Now, if we want to go for those higher sell scores, you can actually sort these by the highest to lowest. I believe first is going to give us lowest to highest. So we definitely want to switch that up. Click on that a second time. All right. And there we can see the ones that say not applicable are attached to active listings. So do we want to reach out to them? No, we don't want that on our list. So let's go ahead. All of them are selected. Let's click on this big check mark at the very top. That's going to uncheck everything. And then let's start with the number 6 listing here with that 850. That's a very, very high sell score as well there. So let's select that one. And let's go for the other ones that are in that 800 category. All right, we're going to select all the way to the one that says 803, all the ones in the 800s there. All right, so let's say this is the first batch of sellers that we want to reach out to. They have the highest likelihood among this group to relist or to list their property within the next 6 months. So what do we do from here? We already looked at how we can produce mailing labels, but you also have an export option. So if we want to instead use this and export it into a spreadsheet, let's click on export. You've got a customize and a quick option. Let's look at the customize option for a minute. This is going to allow us to customize what type of data we're going to include on that export. All right. You also have the same down here on the bottom right corner, the same allowance per month, 7,500. So again, whether you're exporting labels or you're exporting as a spreadsheet, all of that is going to count towards the total that you get per month. I don't want that to be a surprise for anyone. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating it again, but I want to make sure you know that you are keeping track of these exports every month. All right, let's go ahead and do that quick export and just see what the default setting is. Again, if you don't want to do the export, that's okay. Keep that 7,500. I'm going to go ahead and do this so that we can see what it looks like. But even with the quick export, you can still customize the columns that are displayed. All right, so maybe I want to remove the location city because I have the city on here twice. You can still do that here as well. All right, so you're not limited to just the customize option. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to click on export and let's take a look at how that displays. All right, again, if it didn't come up for you, you might want to check on your pop-up settings in your browser. It's not going to be a Realist tax setting. It will be your browser setting. But you can see here, it looks like they're pretty condensed here, but you can see we've got that cell score column. We've got the address listed here. All of the data that was displaying on our results page, all of that is going to be on that spreadsheet. And then if you want to, you can do your own formulas or add your own notes. If you actually speak with them, maybe you can add a column to add notes for what they said, or if you can follow up with them again, you can kind of just keep things organized and keep track of how you've been reaching out. All right, so that's an option that you have there. All right, and that was using the cell score. So that's just a really great way to find some potential options for some sellers there. Let's go ahead and do another search here. I don't see any questions about that, so I think everyone's following along pretty well so far. But we will do a recap on this a little bit later. But let's look at the other searches here. Let's go ahead and start by clearing all. All right, we want to make sure that we don't have anything from the previous search. And let's take a look at this drop-down menu. Let's scroll down to the bottom. I've got a bunch of searches in here already, but I want you to see the searches that are at the very bottom. These ones, these four, with the little orange or yellow padlock icon. They have the padlock because they cannot be changed. We cannot customize, or we cannot change the existing ones. We can create a copy and customize that. Maybe we'll look at that as well. But these are going to be created by Realist Tax. So Realist Tax already says, all right, so these are some searches that people do pretty frequently. So we want to have these ready in case someone might need it. Why don't we take a look at the foreclosure search? All right. Once we select it, it changed right up here, foreclosure search. And then if we scroll past that premium map section, you can see the criteria that's already been added. So what Realist did is instead of having us go through all of the different categories and adding everything we need, they already added what they believe is the most frequently used options in here. So we've got the location information, zip code and city. And again, you've got those plus signs if you want to do multiple locations. Just make sure they are in the counties that you have selected. We also have the foreclosure stage. So if we want to specify what stage of foreclosure they're in. And then you've got some fields here for your dates. And then you can specify the size of the property or year built, even the subdivision. All right, so let's enter some criteria on here. What are we looking for? Let's do the city this time. Let's look in the city of Fort Worth, because we did select Tarrant. So let's do that one there. City of Fort Worth, let's scroll down. Foreclosure stage, we have pre-foreclosure, we have auction, and we have bank owned. I'm going to go with all three options. All right. And then I think that's it. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's click search. Okay, so we've got just under 850 results there. Everything is going to be displaying in our list view here. All right. Now let's say maybe we want to save these 849. Maybe we want to use this information for something and look at all of these active listings here. Let's uncheck those. Go down to the bottom here. Look, the sell score still on here. All right, we can still see that it's still organized the way that we left it. If you want to go back and make the customization to remove it, you can, but it's going to keep what you added on there unless you actually physically go in there and remove it. So we can keep that sell score on there, and then maybe we can also do some outreach for these properties that are not listed currently. All right. What's something else that we can do here? We can select properties and we can actually look at the property reports for all of the ones we selected. So I have 5 currently. If I navigate over to the bottom right-hand corner to reports, click on reports. Let's take a look at that. So this is going to display the property report that we had looked at with that previous property there. All of the same data is going to be displaying here. Excuse me. We also have MLS history. Everything is the same that we have access to, except since we had multiple selected, all of those properties are going to display over here on the left. We can scroll through and toggle between different properties if we want to compare data. You can go through each one. You also have your option here. If you don't want to have the photos displaying, you can select hide photos. But now let's take a look at how we can customize this report, because we kind of skipped that earlier when we looked at it because I wanted to see every category. But up here on the top right, you've got this little icon with the eye. Click on Customize View. Once again, we're pretty familiar with this setup here. So all of the categories that are on there, they're all selected automatically. But if we only want to look at specific items, we can actually clear the selection here, remove everything, and then just start from scratch. What information do we want to see? Maybe we want to know the characteristics. Maybe we want to know features. But this is a foreclosure property, so maybe we definitely want to add foreclosure summary or foreclosure history. All right. And then any other categories that you want to include, you can add them on there as well. All right. Maybe we also want to see that sell score. Keep track of that too. Let's go ahead and click apply on the bottom right-hand corner. And now the display of information is going to only show us the ones that we had selected. Okay, so we can see the land use looks like the one we're looking at right now is a townhouse or row house. All right, you can see the other characteristics about the property. We've got our features in here. That sell score indicator, very high on that sell score indicator there. And then the foreclosure history. So remember, the property we looked at the beginning had no data in there because it was not a foreclosure property. But if it is, we will have more data in this category here. All right, let me click on the next one, see if we can see more detail. I'm gonna go down to the foreclosure history. All right, and look, we have a little more information on this one, just some recording dates, document numbers, things like that. All right. And then if this is information you'd like to print or email, you have those options up here on the right. Let's go ahead and before we go back, actually, let me make sure that you have everything back on your customized view. Because if you do another search and you did not set this back to select all, you're only going to see what you selected for this property report for any future listings or properties you look at. So let's go back over here. And let's select all. That way we are not losing any information in there. If you are looking for something and you don't see it, look at the customized view, make sure that it's actually selected. All right, we've selected everything again. Let's go ahead and click apply. And our preferences have been saved. All right, so just keep that in mind when using this. It's going to save that until we go in and change it, just like with our columns. It's going to save those columns as well. Now let's go back. And I want to show you something else that we can do here. So over here, this was the search that was already preset by Realist tax. They already added all of those fields. But you can still customize that search. You're not limited to just what they had already created as a preset. So if I click on customize, look, it's got this lock on it. I can't change the name. But if I want to add criteria that's not already on here, maybe owner information, maybe location information, whatever we add, let's do characteristics. Let's do the land use core logic. That's been a popular one we've used so far. The moment you add something new, it's going to create it as a new search. All right. So if there are foreclosure properties that you, or if there are fields that you use for your searches, if you're looking for foreclosure properties or any of those categories that they've already created, you can create a copy of that, use that kind of as a template, and then add whatever else you need onto it. So you can give that a custom name. I can say maybe this is my foreclosure search. Let's see if it'll let me add the 918. All right. That way I know this is the one that I created, not the one that Realist had. And if I want to add more, again, you can do up to 30 different fields in here. You can also remove fields. All right. So if you don't need anything on here, maybe we don't need the year built information. Maybe we don't need the subdivision. We can also remove things that were on there. From there, you can go ahead and click save, and it'll save it to your searches. And you can click apply to add it as the next search we're going to do, right? So that's one option there. All right. But what else can we do? You actually can save. So what we've done so far is we've saved the search criteria, just the fields that we can search with, but you can actually save the data that you enter into a search. So why don't we do that too? Let's see what that looks like. Let's see, why don't we we'll do our seller search again. We'll do that one. All right. So if I want to do a search for a specific area, I can say yes on that owner occupied category. All right. Zip code, we did 76051. And it was that Glade Crossing subdivision. So let's go ahead and enter that again. Because remember, when we did it last time, we only reached out to the first couple of properties there. Maybe we want to do another outreach in about a week or two. Give them some time to respond. If we don't hear back, then we can reach out to them again. So now I'm going to add those subdivision phases. Again, not going to use the Baptist church or the shopping center. Then go to the bottom right-hand corner, click apply. And then finally, last thing, single family residence. All right. Now, do you want to do this every single time? Or would you rather have all of this saved and all you have to do is select and search? All right. How do we do that? How do we save this criteria? How do we save all of the data in there, all of those phases, the zip code up here? Right next to the customize option, you have a save button. Go ahead and click save. And it's going to show us two categories on the save search. What we had done previously is we saved a search template. So that means all of the search fields were saved, but they're all blank. So we have to manually enter the criteria or the data every single time. What this one's going to do, search template, is it's going to keep the values or the data that we entered into each field. So all we have to do is select it and search. So this one, let's go ahead and say this is seller's search, Glade Crossing, and then save. So now every time I come back to this, I don't need to enter this criteria again. It's already there. So let me hit clear all. Let's toggle back to the other one. We're going to do the original seller search. Let's look at the difference there. Original seller search, nothing in it. But then if I go back to seller search Glade Crossing, you'll also notice the icon is also different. It's actually got the text on that sheet versus a blank sheet. Click on that and look at that. Everything we selected is still there. From there, you just have to search, and then you can organize your properties that you want to reach out to however you see fit. All right, so that is how we can customize those searches. Now, if you don't plan on doing that search again, let me just show you one last thing, and then we're going to move on to the many tools of our map. Click on Create New Search again. Now, this gets a little confusing. We can create new searches here, but we can also manage our existing searches in this option here. Click on Create New Search. Now, the default is going to open up for us to create a new one, but if I click on this drop down up here, all of my saved searches are going to be here. All right. So let's go back to the renter search. All right. If I don't need this anymore, you can delete the search. On the far right, under the date modified, it also tells you the last time you updated this. You can delete that search if you're not going to use it anymore. All right, so just want to point that out. Maybe you don't need the Glade Crossing information. Let's go find the Glade Crossing search. It's at the very bottom. All right, if you're not actually going to reach out to Glade Crossing, you can delete that. It'll ask you to confirm. I'll go ahead and click delete and it'll remove it for us. All right. It'll also be available here if you want to add any criteria or remove any fields on there. You can do that here as well. All right, let me go ahead and click cancel. And I'm just going to clear all. All right. And again, let me know if you have any questions about those saved searches, but we are going to go ahead and move on from there and take a look at the mapping tools. All right, yeah, I don't see any questions coming up. So let's go ahead and move on from there. All right, so let's take a look at what we've been skipping over every single time, these premium map layers. We have just kind of moved on to the criteria, but these premium map layers are going to allow us to see additional data on the map display based off of the selections that we have here. But notice how up at the top it says in this big orange banner, select only one county for the premium map layers. So how do we change our county? Go up here to the top to change county. And we can only have one selected. So let's go ahead and stick with Dallas since that's how we started. We'll remove Collin, Denton, and Tarrant. Down at the bottom, click Apply. And our counties have been updated. All right. So from here, let's switch this. Let's click on the map view up here. So we just want to look at the map layers and it'll tell us now we selected our county, so that original message went away, but it is saying we need to zoom in to see those premium layers. So if I want to zoom in, I can use the plus and minus signs up here at the top. I'm just going to click that plus sign to zoom in. Once this orange banner goes away, then you've zoomed in enough. So let's keep on going. One more. There we go. All right, so we've got our premium map layers over here on the left. It's going to be that icon with those 4 boxes. From this drop-down menu, these are the different types of data that we can look for. All right, so you've got your building type, land use, home equity. We can even see owner-occupied information, even the ownership time. All right, we also have the rent score and the sell score. We didn't see the rent score before. Maybe we want to look at that one. Let's click on the rent score. Once you make a selection over here, you're not going to see any data just yet. You have to select one of these categories here. So which ones do we want to look at? Do we want to see all of them? Let's click on toggle all. Give it a moment to load. All right, and then all of these colors are going to display on our screen here. Each one is going to match one of these categories. All right, so maybe we want to reach out or just only isolate the higher scores here. We can switch off the very low and the low score. All right, that's kind of clearing up our options there. And maybe also the moderate. We just want to see the high and very high. We just want the ones that are very likely to be listed. All right, so our map has updated there. If I zoom in a little more, all right, you can also see here, remember we added the parcel as part of our boundaries. So you can see that gray line, that is that thicker gray line that is just showing us the actual parcel that's allotted for that property. Now, if I were to click on one of these squares here or one of these parcels, let me click on that green one for the very high score, it's going to show me more information about the property. All right, so if instead of using that list view to kind of organize and sort the options, you can use your premium map, and then you can actually save favorites from here. All right, if you want to see that property report, just click on report on the bottom right-hand corner. And then you've got your additional tools if you want to do a quick zoom all the way into that parcel. What's that going to do for us? This gives us a much closer view. You can see that red outline on here. You can also do the dimensions of the parcel. All right, so if you want to see the approximate dimensions, remember nothing is going to be 100% exact. If it's going to be a map like this, it's going to be the approximate dimensions. And then we also have a direct link. If this is a property that happens to be listed in MLS, we can actually go look at that MLS listing. And then finally, there's a little disclaimer here, and then that's your report here. All right, so just a quick way that we can find data. We can also look at another one here. Let's look at maybe we want to look at the ownership time, any owner occupied properties. Once you select a different category, it's going to clear up the map. Let's zoom out a little more here. All right. And then you can actually determine how long have these properties been owned. Maybe we want to look at people that have owned for 15 to 20 years or 20 plus years. All right. All of those are going to be on here. Now, you're not limited just there. You can also add your other criteria, do your other searches, and use both of them together to help you to organize the data. All right. Now, I am going to switch these off. Let's clear all. Now let's look at the other map tools. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I think that's good. Now up here across the top, these are going to be the rest of your mapping tools. Very first one that we have here is going to be your drawing tools. Now it's not going to be exactly the same as what you have access to in Matrix. Matrix has a lot more drawing tools, but you've got 3 on here. You have your radius, your rectangle, and your polygon tool. All right, so let's see here. Is this a good area for us to search in? Maybe we want to zoom in just a tad bit more. And let's start off with that radius tool. There we go, radius tool. All right, and then once you click on that, it's going to work the same way as it does in Matrix. We're going to do a left click. Let's go right over here, corner of Ross and Peak Street, left click. Hold your mouse down, don't let it go, and then start pulling it out. That's going to create that radius for us. All right. Now it does not tell us the mileage of that radius, so just be mindful of the location. Just keep an eye out on that. Once you release the shape or release your mouse, it's going to create the shape. All right. Now it's not going to find properties. We do still have to actually click search, but let's go add the other ones. Next, let's do our rectangle tool. Just like the radius, it's going to be a click and drag. So let's do a left click. I'm just going to move my mouse over here. Left click and drag it out. All right, maybe I want to go a little bit longer this time. Release the mouse, and we've got our other shape added. And look how over here it tells us we've got a rectangle, we've got a circle, and you can remove them from here, or you can clear. Let's not clear yet. Let's do one more. With our drawing tools, the last one is going to be your polygon. This is the one that's going to allow you to create multiple straight lines and create a custom shape. So not like our drawing tool that's kind of a freehand option, but this one's going to be custom lines. So let's do a single click. I'm down here by Haskell Avenue and Live Oak. I'm going to do a left click, and I'm going to release my mouse this time. I'm not going to drag it out. So this time, when you move your mouse, you see that blue line that's following my mouse there? It's going to wait for me to do another click. Let me go right here, do another single click, release your mouse immediately, and it's going to continue to create lines until we reach the point in which we started. So let's create another shape here. Let's move it out a little. Go a bit this way, and just keep on clicking to create the end points on those lines. And then once you meet that start point, that's when it's going to create the shape for you. All right. So if you are looking in an area that's not going to be just a straightforward rectangle or circle, you have that customization there. Now that we have our shapes, we can actually click search, and it's going to pull up listings in each of these shapes. There they are. All right. Now I said listings, you can see we have these little icons that are showing us the different statuses here. If you want to bring up your list, you can still do that and organize things that way. Let me go ahead and clear all. All right, that was our shapes. This next one here, this is going to be our boundaries. Remember, we had the parcel already, but you're not limited just to the parcel. Let me uncheck that one, and let's take a look at maybe the zip code. Let's add the zip code. This is just going to add a boundary to that area. So let's zoom out here, and you can see all the different zip codes. So if you're doing a search and you're not sure exactly which zip code you need to use that search for, add the boundary to the map. Look at where that area is located, and then you've got your zip code there. All right, I can zoom out even more here. All of them are going to be listed on here. Each has their own color category as well. The zip code is blue. You can do the county. All right, if you're not sure which counties you need to select for your search, this might help. All right, maybe we're doing something that's just too close to these 3 corners of the of Denton, Cullen, and Dallas. Maybe we're not getting results because we have Dallas selected and it just happens to be right on the other side in the Denton County area. All right. So very helpful if you're not familiar with all of DFW. I know I'm not. I kind of just stay in my little radius over here. So that's really helpful for me to know where everything is. But you're not limited to just locations. You have school information too. You got school boundaries. You can see high school, middle, and elementary school. All of that is listed here. Now this one's going to be a lot busier there, but you can see the names: Garland Independent School District, Louisville, Fort Worth ISD. All of those are listed here. All right, now make sure to uncheck that so that we can get the map cleared up. All right, now premium layers are also available through here as well. Just remember, if we select anything in this category, you will not see results until you toggle one of these options on. All right. Next one here, property and sales information. So we can actually add little indicators. If there's any foreclosure properties, we can get those different foreclosure stages. Now, I want you to see this little icon on the right. If we need to zoom in closer on the map to see the display, it will give us this little zoom in reminder. Same thing with MLS status. We can see the different statuses here. So if we want to look at active listings, maybe sold and expired listings, we can add those on our map. Now it says we have to zoom in, so let me zoom in. And you have to zoom in quite a bit because unfortunately these little icons are going to display it very, very small. There they are. There we go. So we've got that information here. All right. So you can see how many active listings are in this area, how many sold listings are in this area. You can zoom in a lot further if we want to go ahead and add the distressed properties. Now, not sure if we will have any in this area, but once you make your selections, the map will tell us. Let's see, maybe if I zoom out a little bit, there we go. So these icons are going to be for actual listings, whether it's sold or active. These little icons here, it's going to have that shape, the kind of like stick with that little circle on top. These are going to be the foreclosure ones. So get familiar with how those icons look. All right, but you can see there, they are very, very tiny. But you can still click on the parcel, get more information about that property. I'm going to clear all. Clear all is your friend. If you need to clean up everything and you don't remember which ones you selected, just hit clear all. That is our recommendation there. Let's look at trends next. I think I'll need to zoom out for this one. This one's going to have a lot of data. So the trends, all right, you've got your type. What type of trends do we want to look at here? Median sales price, median MLS sale price. Remember, we have MLS data in here and public record information. Sales activity, maybe we want to see which areas have the most activity. We can look at that one. Next up, you have your aggregation level. This is just going to tell us, are we going to separate the data based off of the zip code or based off of the neighborhood? Neighborhood is not as easy on the eyes. I'm going to stick to the zip code option there. And then finally, the property type. Are we looking at single family residence, condos, or both? Let's do both. And then I'm going to minimize this. And let me go ahead and hide the search since we're not using those premium layers anymore. And let's zoom out a lot. Let's look at all the DFW area. I want to see which areas have the most sales activity, right? Sales activity, how do we know which one has the most? Down here, we've got our legend. And the most sales activity is going to be that red category. So who's having the most sales activity? Looks like this Forney area over here. We've got Royce City, Union Valley, up in Salina, McKinney, Aubrey. Sounds about right. Saginaw also. If I want to get more details about this, let me go over to Saginaw, this area. If I hit the control key on my keyboard and a left click, it'll give me a little more detail here. So the sales activity, how is this compiled? This is recent from July 2024. All right. It updates every 3 months. This is a rolling 3-month period. And what's the value? The value is the actual number of sales during that rolling 3-month period since July. So 443 sales. What area? That's the zip code that we're looking in. And then just to confirm, what property types did we select? It was the combo option there. All right, let's clear all. We've got about 2 minutes left. Let's go ahead and push through these other ones. Points of interest, pretty self-explanatory. It's going to give you just points of interest in the area. You just select the categories that you want to look for: food and dining, arts and entertainment. Make sure you're zoomed in on your map. Once we have zoomed in enough, it'll show us all the categories here. All right, food and dining. Click on the icon to get more information. All right. And you can see all of the information displaying there. Let me hit clear all again. Very last one, these other ones don't really get a lot of use. So we'll look at this one, and if you want to stay a little bit longer, you can, but class ends at 11, so you are free to go at 11. But let's just do a quick driving directions because this is a nice feature to have access to. Let's say we are driving from 1701 Ken West Parkway. Driving to, let's say that address we looked at before, 202 Brittany Drive. I have a limited number of addresses that I have memorized. Everything is always, let me Google it. All right, so just like Google Maps, this is going to display turn-by-turn directions for us. So if you are meeting somebody at a location, you can actually email them turn-by-turn directions to get to that destination, all right? You can actually copy this too. Copy, and you can paste that. Maybe if you're going to list that, you can actually get those driving directions and add them to your listing, right? Because help your fellow agent out with those driving directions. That's what the field is there for. All right. But yeah, you can email that directly to someone. And again, that email is going to have that email signature that we set up at the very beginning. All right. All right, it is now 11 a.m. So if anyone needs to go ahead and head out. Anything remaining here, if there's any last questions, if you'd like to see something again, I am here for you. I will keep an eye on the questions for a couple more minutes. If you'd like to stay and see the last 3 tools that are on here, go ahead and stay on the line. They'll still be on the recording if you have to go. All right, but like I said, these ones don't really get a lot of use. So this one is going to just jump to a specific address on the map. So let's use that 1701 address again. If you're not familiar with that, that is our Irving headquarters. So if you ever want to come to an in-person class, I'll be teaching Intro to Matrix this Friday afternoon from 2 to 5. I'd love to see you. So we've got that there. It'll just take you straight to that address. So maybe if you want to look at surrounding properties in the area, you can start with that as a starting point and then do your search from there. All right, let me clear all again. I want to remove those driving directions. Clear. All right, it's not letting me do that. Maybe if I delete. All right, let's just move on here. So that was locate on a map. Next up, we have a measurement tool. So if you want to get a rough estimate of maybe what's the distance between 2 points, you can actually use a measurement tool. So I'm going to use Ken West Parkway as an example. Click on the little ruler icon. When you click on this measurement tool, it'll tell you to begin, click and release the mouse first and for the subsequent points. So it's going to be kind of like that polygon tool. Go ahead, let's click on Ken West Parkway. It did not work. Let's click again. All right, click. There we go. So we have our starting point, and then you can add a line here. Let's say we want to go this way towards Ken West by Regent. Click again to create a line. And then you can create another line. So let's say we want to go through Regent all the way to Beltline. Click again. And then from Beltline over to, I don't know, Sainsbury, since it's on the map here. When you're finished creating that line, you're going to want to double click, and now it's going to create the line for us. From here, since this line kind of has a bit of a curve to it, I've got this little dot in the middle. Hopefully you can all see that there. You can do a left click and you can pull it towards the street. So you can stick to kind of the same shape just in case that might impact the distance a little bit. All right, I can do the same thing here, just kind of follow that curve a little bit. And look, once I'm done, it'll tell me that was 2.27 miles. It'll tell me the exact distance there. All right. Again, these tools don't really get too much use, so that's why I left those for the end. Let's see here. Okay, Keiko, I see your question. You will receive the video recording probably tomorrow or the next day, within the next 2 business days, but you will get that recording in an email. Look out for that. It's going to have the GoToWebinar system. That's going to have that recording for you, and this will be included on there as well if you need to go somewhere. All right, let me delete that line. And then very last thing is an annotation tool. This is just going to let you add notes to your map. So you can click on the annotation tool. Maybe we want to add a note here. It'll just give you this little pop-up where you can add a note. I'll say this is MetroTex HQ. All right. And then you can see that's going to remain on your map. Oh, sorry. That's going to remain on your map. All right. Now, if anybody still on the line listening to this, if you can tell me a reason why you might use that feature, please let me know so that I can let other members know the next time I teach this class. Because we do get a lot of questions like that. How is this valuable to me as a realtor? I am not a licensed agent. I don't have the same experience as to everything that you guys have to do. My expertise is focused on making sure you know how the technology works. But if this is not relevant to what your needs are, please let me know so that I can decide whether we should keep on looking at that or not. All right. So please let me know how you might use these features, the measurement tool, the annotation tool. All right. Now, that is everything for the map.